Imagine you're standing in a prison. I can't read your minds, but I can assume that what you're probably envisioning is concrete floors, cold metal bars, for beds just slabs with maybe a pillow on it, dirty bathrooms, somewhere nobody would ever want to be. And I ask you, if you were in these conditions, you would not think that they were okay to live in. So why would it be okay for anybody to have to live in these conditions? If you haven't figured it out, I'm going to be arguing that prison conditions as they are right now are currently inhumane. I will be talking about what the problem is, offering two different solutions, and asking you to visualize how things are now versus how they could be if we fix this problem. And I would like to invite you to listen to my side of things, even if you do believe otherwise. So first of all, the conditions overall are very bad. One part of this is that there's a lot of overcrowding. So the US prison population is actually a fourth of the global prison population. And I found that in an article by Veterans Anonymous in March 2019. So that means that there's shortage of beds, there's shortage of living space. They don't have enough supplies for these people who are living there. There's also a lot of violence within these. According to an article by the Equal Justice Initiative published in May 2020, there's often a lot of stabbings and rapings that go on within the prisons. And there's a shortage of correctional officers, so they don't provide the necessary protection. They have to work often a lot later than they should, which means that they are tired and they don't really catch everything because there's not as many of them as there should be. And there's also the problem of gerrymandering. So gerrymandering is whenever a group will purposely arrest different people for the purpose of tax money. So according to the NAACP in February 2018, they found that a lot of prisons do this, where they'll arrest people for things like possession charges of drugs, for different like minor crimes, because whenever they are in the federal prisons, it gives the cities that they are in more tax revenue. So they are arresting more people than they really usually would just for the tax benefits. So there are a couple different solutions that people have suggested, and I would like to acknowledge that you may believe otherwise, but I would like you to think about You may believe otherwise, but I would like you to consider these different solutions. So the first that I found was from the American Conservative Union Foundation, and they suggested that they release all the elderly prisoners. So after prisoners reach a certain age and they're dubbed to be not a threat any longer, they are released back in society because they wouldn't cause any trouble. The second solution that I found was from the Prison Policy Initiative in March 2020. They suggested that they release the not yet convicted. So if somebody's waiting for their trial to be done, they wouldn't be kept in a prison. They'd be able to be out on their own until the day of their prison and they are convicted of their crime. And the solution that I'm going to be putting forward comes from the World Economic Forum in June 2017. This described a prison in Norway called Bastøy Prison. It's located on an island, but I would like you not to focus on the location necessarily, but rather the conditions on the island. It's very low security and the prisoners are able to care for themselves. So they have different farms that they can work on. They grow their own food, they cook their own meals. It's sort of like living in a dormitory, but they're being watched. They have a training program for them, so 9 months before they are released, they are allowed to re-enter society and they are given a job. And this job can allow them to slowly ease themselves back into society. They also have a continuing care policy for them, so after they have been released, they will help them with shelter, with food, and also with their career still until they are able to get back on their feet and re-enter society. Now, for my visualize, I would like you first to listen to these statistics. So according to the Equal Justice Initiative in May 2020, there's a 75% guard capacity while the inmates are at 182% capacity. This is at prisons specifically in Alabama. The guards are forced to work 16-hour shifts because there are not enough of them, and it's one of the most dangerous prisons in the US. It's said that they violate their constitutional rights and they are often stabbed, raped. There's lots of illegal drugs that make their way into the prisons. And there's a quote from them that says, "Incarcerated people are extorted, threatened, stabbed, raped, and even tied up for days without the guards noticing." And this is because of the overcrowding and the conditions that have not been solved there. On the other side of this, I would like you to imagine prison as a place of rehabilitation. So somewhere that's comfortable, you can contemplate on what you've done wrong, why it happened, and you can better yourself. So it'd be a place where they help solve whatever it is that caused you to commit these crimes, and then allow you to slowly re-enter society. So throughout my speech, I have covered what the problem is, what the solutions are, and ask you to visualize the two different sides of it. If you would like to help better the conditions, what you can do is vote for officials who support it and petition for the better conditions within the prisons.
Fine.